What do you think of the camera?
I love it.
10 seconds.
9, 3, 2, 1.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the King's Cross Track 5K. We've got a very exciting race for you this evening. This is ES Mark Stadium in Sydney, Australia, and this is the Track 5K. So King's Cross is a local running club, and every so often we get together for an unofficial race. And this right here is the start of the race. We are on lap number 1. You can see this little crowd on the right hand side who's cheering us along. And right now I'm just settling into the race and trying to get comfortable with this pace that we're going to have to try and maintain for 12.5 laps. And just like that, we're now coming up to the end of the first lap. You can see those markings on the track. That marks 400 meters, and in order to complete this 5K, we're going to have to do 12.5 laps of the track. So that first lap was done in just under 1 minute and 20 seconds, which is a very good pace. Okay, so there's quite a few metrics on the left-hand side of this video. So let me quickly break down what we're looking at here. So first of all, we've got the duration, the total time. And for me, my goal today is to try and break the 18-minute barrier. This is a time that I've only broken 2 times before. And the question is, can I do it again today? So below that, we have lap time. So every 400 meters is a new lap, and we're recording how much time it takes to pass each of those laps. And again, we've got 12.5 laps to do today. And roughly my goal is to try and do these laps in about 1 minute and 28 seconds. That's just a bit slower than the 18-minute pace. However, I figure there's going to be a sprint finish that will get me below that 18 minutes, if indeed it does happen today. And then below that we have heart rate. So my max heart rate is 186. So as soon as you see that number getting into the 180s, that's when you know that I'm starting to get into quite a bit of trouble. But here we are sitting around 166 at the moment, and that's relatively comfortable. So to give you a frame of reference, I can sustain a heart rate of around 170 beats per minute for a half marathon effort, or around 90 minutes. So at this point, it's still a relatively comfortable intensity. And then finally, we have the pace number, pace in minutes per kilometer. And this is slightly inaccurate because it does rely on a GPS, so it's not measuring the track distance precisely. So my real pace is actually a little bit slower than this, although not that much slower. So we've now jumped forward to the 5th lap, so we're over 2Ks through at this point, and you can see that I'm trying to settle into a nice rhythm. I found myself a little running pod behind my yellow shirt friend, and really I'm just trying to settle down into the race at this point. Around the 6th lap mark is when it starts to feel pretty difficult for a 5K. So at this point the heart rate is starting to increase, so it's starting to become more painful, but it's still tolerable at this point. And here we are finishing up the 6th lap, so right around that halfway point, and I'm actually starting to struggle a little bit. That heart rate is getting dangerously close to that 180 mark, and that's when it really starts to get very tough indeed. And you can see that a couple of the other runners are starting to form a gap on me, and I can't really do much to close that at the moment, or at least I don't particularly want to do much to close that at the moment, because it is starting to get pretty painful. So I'm going to let some of those other runners drift into the distance, and I'm going to try and hang on for dear life at this point. And right now we are approaching the 3-kilometer point, so we're definitely into the tail end of this race, and we're passing it in right around 11 minutes, which is a pace of 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So that's aiming for about an 18:20 right now. So in order to get under 18 minutes, I've got quite a lot of work to do in these final 2Ks. So at some point, I'm going to have to really try and pick up the pace here. And right here, we're about to pass the 4K mark, and that lap was done in 1 minute and 28 seconds. And now we're entering the final kilometer, and this is one of the most enjoyable parts of the race for me. So I have saved a little bit of energy, so this should get quite enjoyable as we start making up some time and hopefully moving a little bit up the field as well. So 15 minutes into the race, this means I have 3 minutes to try and get over that finish line if I want to try and break 18 minutes. And that support is just so valuable, especially in these closing laps. So thank you to everybody who was there cheering us on. It makes a huge difference. And this is definitely the most enjoyable part of the race. You can see that I'm starting to make up some ground, so I'm starting to pass a few people. Right there on the right hand side, that's Ian. Ian is a super speedy runner, one of the legendary runners of Sydney. So he just is lapping me for the first time, and he is having a phenomenal race on his end. And you can see how that heart rate is now well and truly into the 180s. Again, my max heart rate is 186, so we're very quickly starting to get close to that number. And we have 1.5 laps to go here, so I should be working hard because there's only 600 meters left to go. At this point, it's just 400 meters left, so I'm really trying to unload the tank. Any energy that I've stored up throughout this race, I'm trying to unleash it right now, and I'm moving into that fast little sprint-ish finish. And usually I do finish strong. That is one of my strengths. So you can see here again that I'm trying to move up through the field. I'm trying to push myself as hard as I can go. And just 200 meters left at this point, so it's 17:20 on the clock, so I have just 40 seconds to try and get under that 18-minute time, which was my goal when I started out. And here we go, coming in for the close, last 100 meters. I can see that finish line just in the distance. The pace has come down. It's below 3 minutes per kilometer right now. And the time is 17, 52, 53, 54. That's when I crossed the line. And yes, I did reach that goal of a sub 18 5K. And I am absolutely thrilled with that. That was very hard work. And I am very glad it is done.
Amazing job, John.
Oh,
Well done, that was amazing.
good job.
That was
Well done.
brilliant.
Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, 17:54.
See? Amazing.
Happy with that.